Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. I hope you're having a good weekend so far as we now cruise into Stupendous Sunday. And you're looking absolutely amazing, by the way. And we're going to get straight into the meat and potatoes. This is a Coburger meat and potatoes dish as we have a quick look at mainstream media in the aftermath of the last hearing and the last documentation that now gives us a date for the Idaho 4 trial. Because you know what happens. As soon as something happens in the Idaho 4 case, people are able to do comments and they're able to do pieces on information, like we saw with the Howard Blumber book. We saw all of the big hitters coming out and jumping on that bandwagon, myself included. I found that my way of handling it was sort of in order to balance the scale, so to speak. Some may disagree because I'm accused frequently of being kind of a huge pro-burger. It's not about being a huge pro-burger, it's just about being acutely aware that the guilty camp struggles with something. And I'm going to get into that later on in the video. But before we touch on that issue, we're going to prove the issue. And that is in looking at this, which is one of many, pretty much going down the same route. But let's have a quick look at it together and see if you can immediately spot the problem with it. So here we go. So this is Daily Mail. I know. So Daily Mail, and it says Bryan Kohberger trial date is finally set after nearly 2 years after Idaho murders. Now, bearing in mind Bryan Kohberger is accused at this time, he hasn't been found guilty of anything he's accused. So by the time this trial goes ahead, think of the amount of time that he spent behind bars. And before we go on, let me just cover this very, very quickly again, and that is that I'm very aware that people have this inability to understand how the system works. When somebody is accused of a crime and it goes through the process to get them to where Bryan Kohberger is now, it's not quite as simple as Bryan Kohberger saying, look, I didn't do it. He could say that or whatever decibels he wanted to. He could shout it from the fucking rooftops if he wanted. He ain't going anywhere. Do you think he's the last person to be in this position who has been innocent or been guilty but claims to be innocent? That's not quite as easy as that. It's about proving you are innocent. Now, if that can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, like if he had an alibi that was not complex, like he had somebody who was with him or he was caught on camera somewhere, there was some tangible piece of evidence, then that would be different. But we know that his alibi is a lot more complex than this because it's an alibi that puts Bryan Kohberger on his own. So it relies upon other specific pieces of data. And sadly, that data, the vast majority of that, is in the control of the prosecution, and that has been an ongoing issue throughout the last sort of 16, 17 months. But look, there will be people who will be skeptical of the alibi. There are still people who touches on specific elements of the alibi to try and push it as a ludicrous alibi. But what I want to ask you right now is what we're saying is then what, unless you are with somebody, you simply don't have an alibi and deserve to be punished for a crime that you didn't commit, because you should always have someone with you, just on the off chance that you're accused of a quadruple homicide or similar. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back into this Suspected quadruple killer Bryan Kohberger has had his trial date set for June 2025. It's June 2nd, 2025, will run for approximately 3 months. That is including jury selection and a potential sentencing phase afterwards. There are some dates that are not going to be court dates, obviously, because there will be closed days and there will be dates such as Independence Day, for instance, that they will not have the court open. And it will run daily from 9:30 a.m. late our time to, I believe it's 3:30 a.m. late our time. And we will be streaming that every day throughout the summer from here in the UK next year. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do. We'll cover it daily. The 29-year-old's blockbuster court case over the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in November 22 is expected to last for up to 3 months. Koberger, a criminology PhD student, appeared in court Thursday at a scheduling hearing where his attorney repeated her request for a change of venue over fears he wouldn't receive a fair trial. Koberg was charged with the murders of Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Knodel, and Ethan Chapin in their off-campus home. Did you notice that I got all of those names correct? Take note, Howard Blumberbus. Got some photographs here. Photographs that we're all too familiar with. Koberger's initial trial date was set for October 2023. However, his lead defense attorney, Ann Taylor, has filed for extensions and further hearings numerous times since his arrest. So here we start to turn the screw slightly, because it's trying to say this has been delayed because of the defense, which we know. Those of us who are not just balls deep in the guilt, we know that that's not the case. The delays were not caused by the defense team. They were a byproduct of a prosecution that were not handing over information that was pertinent to Ann Taylor and the defense team being able to do their job properly. His team delayed revealing his official alibi until May 2024. Well, they didn't. Everybody knew that Brian Koberger had said that he was driving around on the night of the crime, so they didn't. They didn't hide his alibi. They didn't delay releasing it. They've consistently said that Brian Koberger wasn't in the area from the very, very, very beginning. We knew Brian Koberger was driving about. The issue that we have is, again, like aforementioned, regarding not having someone with you, you depend upon certain piece of information, and that information that is controlled by the prosecution has not been forthcoming. So it got into this, we need this, you're not having it, we need this, you're not having it. And as they started to drip feed stuff, they could add things to the alibi structure. But it's incomplete because they haven't got all the information. How difficult is that to understand? When he finally submitted an alibi, prosecutors tore it apart. Did they tore it apart? No, they took the piss out of it, and they took the piss out of it by doing exactly what they're going to do in a second. As Koberger claimed, he was driving alone on the night of the murders to look at the moon and stars. This is a new piece of media propaganda. A new one, again, that they rely upon to push out to the public, and public will read this and take it as gospel. In that filing, Taylor said she would be calling on a phone data analysis expert, Cy Ray, to back up his claims he was miles from the scene, which is one of the pieces of evidence prosecutors and the defense have repeatedly clashed over. At the hearing on Thursday, both sides discussed. Notice that they don't go on to speak about what happened in that hearing. And the fact that how that has subsequently been left is that Cy Ray, the professional, has turned around and said the information that they're pushing out is incomplete, that there was potential issues with that, ranging from that they didn't have the information that they needed in order to obtain the results that they claimed to have, use of equipment that could have potentially not been functioning properly, and exculpatory evidence within it that he is open to being changed and changing his mind should every blank that's there be filled. But then blanks need to be filled. They don't touch on that. At the hearing on Thursday, both sides discussed deadlines for them to submit evidence in court, including what can be used for his sentencing if found guilty. It comes as Latah County officials say they intend to seek the death penalty if he is convicted over the grisly murders. And then we've got this, right? So this is like a timeline of what actually happened. And this is where this completely goes to shit. Suspect arrives on King Road in Moscow, Idaho at 3:29 a.m. Killer quietly breaks into the house just before 4 a.m. Well, we know that Brian Kohberger, if you believe it's him or if someone else, or even if this white Hyundai Elantra has anything to do with this crime whatsoever, was still driving around and trying to park at 4:05 a.m. So they definitely weren't in the house. And what they're seemingly doing here is avoiding speaking about the time frame itself, how long it took to do these killings, because that is going to be something that everyone has to wrap their head around, and even mainstream media cannot do it, and they daren't push it. They daren't talk about it because people are going to start scratching their head. And if people haven't already contemplated that and you throw that in the mix, it is going to make people think, oh, hold on a second. That gives what? Approximately 8 minutes to enter into this house, get their way around this house, do the crime, get out, get in their car and drive away. All while doing this without taking anything outside the house, no evidence outside the house or into the car. He gets he gets into Xana Knodle's bedroom. The murderer then stabs Xana and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin to death in her bed. He then snuck up to the third floor. Killer then knifed Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan to death in Mogan's bed. Surviving housemate Dylan Mortensen says masked man walks past her. She says the killer slipped out the back sliding glass doors and fled around 4:25 a.m. Now, we know that the car was seen at 4:20 a.m. driving away at pace and had been caught on a video. So he was certainly out of the house before here. So again, it's extending this time. So it makes this, the time of the crime, appear to be 25 minutes, when in fact it's more like 8. And not only that, but the way in which they say this happened would mean that the killer comes down the stairs and right past Dylan Mortensen instead of from Xana and Ethan's room and heads towards her and out round the sliding door, which makes a lot more sense than what they're saying here. So can't even get that right. And then we've got some pictures of the victims here. Kohberger has maintained his innocence since his arrest in December 22, over a month after the murders that shocked the nation. A month-long search for the alleged killer led to widespread media attention, with the families of the victims using the spotlight to condemn the proceedings against Kohberger. In December 2023, the mother of victim Kaylee Gonsalves said the ongoing process has been gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching how slow everything has to go. Why does this have to be so drawn out? Kaylee's mother, Christy, said in an interview with KHQ, it's important, I get it, but there are facts. We have certain facts. We have certain knowledge. I can't believe this is how it works. So again, media propaganda by stating that the families obviously have information that means that they know that this is the right guy. They know that. And this process, because we've got to uphold his rights, means that we have to travel at a pace that just is ridiculous, because it's almost like we're just delaying inevitability. Sure we are. Why would you even put that in here? Well, we know the answer to that question, don't we? And then we've got this other timeline here. There we go. We've got a different timeline here. Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Knodle, and Ethan are murdered between 4 a.m. and 4:20. So even in their own report, they have a contradiction of timelines here. And one thing that we want to pick up here, at 9:32 a.m, phone is picked up near Moscow murder house. Again, pushing the fact that Brian Kohberger had apparently returned to the scene of the crime. Now, we know that the phone pings. Let me just come back up on here. I think we've seen enough of that. The phone ping off towers, and those towers have a range that would enable his phone to ping in Moscow, Idaho, and him still be in Pullman, Washington, because of the sheer scope of their their ability to pick up phones. It's bewildering to me. It's bewildering. That's why there are things that are missing and things that need to come forward. You know, the time analysis. You know, I've gone over this. I've touched on this. And Ray, you can head over to the Crime Socialite channel, and you know, what else can I say? This is just, again, mainstream media pushing specific elements to try and get people to be biased. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning. All of these people who are adamant that Brian Kohberger is guilty of this crime, they struggle to embrace all of the information that's out there. They can't do it. They have to avoid talking about things completely avoid speaking on things that would raise questions about his actual guilt, such as the issues that we're seeing with the PCA, the issues that we're seeing with the DNA, the fact that how can Othram have turned these results round on a sample that small, that quickly, when they can't do it in other cases, but in this one they did. You know, just little things, and they push out little things that real try to hammer Brian Kohberger being guilty. If you're so confident in him being guilty, then put all of the cards on the table, put everything on the table, and discuss everything. But I've got a question for you. If you're whatever camp you're in, whether you're in camp guilty or camp not guilty or camp unsure, what was the one piece of information that you heard that put you where you are today? The one piece of information. I'd like to hear that. And I think we'll do a live tomorrow. I was going to do one tonight, but I've been suffering from hay fever. So I'm going to move tonight's live to tomorrow night, and I'll catch you all then as we have a bit of a pre-trial rant. But have a fantastic Sunday. Like I say, you're all looking amazing, and I will catch you all in the next one.